Exposed, incredible moment when military dogs reveal hidden strength, transforming fear into unity. In the sweltering summer heat of Maplewood, the air crackled with tension. Jake, once a high school football star, now lingered like a shadow on the outskirts of his own life. After a career-ending injury crumpled his dreams, he felt like a specter haunting the beaten paths of his hometown. A glance at his father, a weathered Vietnam veteran, was enough to weigh Jake down with disappointment. A real man, his dad would say, is strong and unyielding. But Jake felt anything but. He faded into the background while the town he loved thrummed with life. Then whispers of crime began to shroud Maplewood, rattling the foundations of their close-knit community. Families grew fearful, stepping outside with apprehension. Jake drifted further into despair, losing touch with himself. It wasn't until he stumbled upon a flyer for a community program training military dogs for service that a small spark flickered back to life within him. Why not? He thought, but doubts gnawed at him, echoing the weight of his past failures. Then came the day Jake met Gus, a grizzled veteran trainer, who saw a glimmer of hope in Jake's haunted eyes. "These dogs, son," Gus said, his voice rough like gravel but filled with warmth, "they've faced their demons too. They just need someone to believe in them." Jake felt something shift in him. The thought of possibly believing in both himself and these creatures was a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. With hesitant steps, he joined the training sessions. The mix of barking dogs and excited chatter soon transformed the air, making him feel alive if only a little. Under the blazing sky, laughter bubbled up, a rarity for him, and for the first time in years, he shared in the town's camaraderie. Their challenges became intertwined, and suddenly he wasn't just Jake the ghost, he was part of something bigger. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But just as he began to settle into this new rhythm, chaos erupted. An aggressive stray dog, barking like thunder, stormed into their training area, snapping at them like angry lightning. Fear surged through the townsfolk, raw and palpable. Jake, heart racing, could feel years of doubt closing in around him. Everything he had been working for dangled on the edge of sudden collapse. Would he rise up to lead them, or would he shrink back into the shadows? That moment lingered, pregnant with possibility. Jake faced the crossroads of courage and cowardice, knowing that the collective gaze of his hometown rested on him. If he can confront this, maybe we can too. Conspiratorial whispers hurried along the wind, knitting a fragile fabric of camaraderie. As Jake wrestled with the weight of expectation and his own fears, he realized this moment was no longer just about him. He was tangled up in something powerful, the shared hardships of a community looking for strength. Deep down, he yearned for approval from his father, to shake off the label of the boy who fell from grace. In the heart of Maplewood, where dogs barked and fears lingered, Jake stood teetering on a precipice. Would he leap into the unknown or retreat? The town held its breath, and so did he, as the gulf between despair and hope beckoned. Jake's pulse thundered in his ears, the chaotic barking of the stray dog ringing like a warning bell. He looked around at the faces of the townsfolk, their expressions painted with worry and uncertainty. Children huddled close to their parents, eyes wide, adults exchanged glances that seemed to plead for action. The stray snapped at the air, muscles tense, eyes wild with fear and aggression. In that charged moment, Jake felt a flicker of recognition. The dog wasn't just a threat, it was a creature battling its own demons, much like he had for so long. He could see the fear in its posture, the uncertainty in its growls. And he understood that maybe, just maybe, this stray was as lost as he had been. "Stay back!" Gus shouted, his voice slicing through the tension as he stepped forward. It was a command steeped in authority and experience. But as Gus positioned himself between the dog's raw energy and the frightened crowd, Jake felt a swell of urgency. His instinct kicked in, pulling him into a leader's role, the one he had thought he lost forever. "Hold on, Gus." Jake's voice rose above the chaos. "Let me try." The word surprised even him, slipping out before his fears could catch up. A part of him didn't recognize the fierce, steadying strength in his own voice. He took a step forward, grounding himself, pulling in a deep breath as he focused on the agitated animal. The stray continued its frantic barking, but Jake felt something shift. He called upon the skills he had been trying to hone while working with the service dogs. "Hey there. It's okay, buddy." He kept his tone soothing, presenting his open palms to the dog. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but he pushed through, seeking that connection. "What are you doing?" someone whispered, their voice wavering with doubt. "Trust me," Jake said, his gaze locked on the stray. The world around him blurred, noise fading until it was just him and that dog. Slowly, he began to crouch lower, making himself non-threatening. He spared a glance at Gus, who nodded, visibly hopeful yet still cautious. The stray's barking subsided to a growl, which transformed into confused whines. Jake edged closer, feeling the heat of adrenaline coursing through his veins. He had to find a way to reach this animal just as Gus had reached him. "It's all right, you're safe here. I won't hurt you." Jake maintained eye contact, pushing aside his fear. The stray's ears twitched, its growl replaced by hesitant sniffs. In that moment, around them, the crowd held their breath, a unifying hush washing over Maplewood. With each gentle word and gesture, Jake felt his fears melt away. And just as suddenly, the stray moved closer, drawn in by the unexpected calm radiating from Jake's presence. It took another step forward, then another, until there was barely any distance left between them. Jake's heart raced, both in fear and triumph. He felt the spark of hope igniting within him, a fire he hadn't touched in years. The dog might just need someone to believe, just like he did. As the stray lowered its head in a sign of submission, a wave of cheers surged from the townsfolk. Laughter and relief washed over them, replacing the earlier tension, binding everyone in a moment of victory. In that instant, as sweet connection filled the air, Jake realized he wasn't just saving a dog, he was finally taking a stand for himself, for his town, and against the demons that had haunted him for too long. But as the crowd erupted in celebration, Jake caught a fleeting glimpse of something in the shadows, a figure observing quietly, its presence heavy with unspoken concerns. It was his father, standing on the edge of the crowd like a sentinel, his expression unreadable. Jake's pulse quickened again, but this time, fear and hope intertwined like vines. Would his father finally see him? Jake took a deep breath, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, he felt ready to face not only his community but the most daunting challenge of all, the struggle for acceptance from the man he sought to impress for so long. The stray looked up at him, eyes soft now, as if understanding the journey they both had ahead. And in that moment, Jake knew a new chapter awaited them. Would it bring him closer to his family, or would it open wounds he thought had long healed? Jake took a shaky breath, feeling the weight of the crowd's gaze upon him. Hushed whispers danced through the air, mixed with the remnants of excitement, as people shifted from fear to exhilaration. But his eyes were anchored on his father, who hadn't moved an inch, the distance between them like an uncrossable chasm. For a heartbeat, the world faded, and it was just the two of them. The stray dog leaned against him, a tangible reminder that connection was possible, even when it felt improbable. Jake could feel the warmth radiating from its body, the simple trust that began to blossom. The applause echoed around them, a gentle tide that he felt both a part of and utterly separate from. The cheers that rang out were laced with relief, but to Jake, they felt hollow. He wanted that joy to mean something more, to be wrenched from the same deep well of shared experience that his father had once drawn from. "Jake." His father's voice broke through the noise, deep and familiar yet tinged with something unrecognizable. It sent a jolt through Jake, a reminder that though he had triumphed with the stray, the battle with his father had just begun. "Yeah," Jake replied, the word barely a whisper as he tried to mask his vulnerability. He turned slowly, bracing himself for whatever feelings this reunion would bring up. The crowd faded into the background, their celebration a mere backdrop to the tension building between him and the man he longed to impress. His father stepped closer, confusion and concern etched on his face. I didn't know you could do that," he said slowly. Jake searched his father's eyes, desperately hoping to find pride glimmering amongst the shadows of doubt. "I didn't know either, Dad. But I think I'm figuring it out." "What do you mean?" His father's brow furrowed, disbelief hovering in the air. The stray nosed closer to Jake, and he instinctively reached down to pet it, finding solace in its solid presence. It was a symbol of courage, something Jake yearned for in this moment. "I mean, I'm learning to face my fears, to take a stand. Just like I did with this dog." Jake's father shook his head, taking a step back, as if the revelation unsettled him. "You can't just walk into danger like that, Jake. You've got to be careful. It's not about danger. It's about connection." Jake's voice rose slightly, fueled by a mix of frustration and determination. "The dog is like me, Dad, lost, alone. But we can find our way back. That's the point. You think you found it just by talking to a stray?" His father's tone was heavy, weighty with years of managing expectations and disappointments. Jake clenched his fists, the adrenaline from earlier morphing into a burning need for understanding. "No, Dad. It's more than that. This isn't just about the dog. It's about me trying to find my place in this town, in our family. I can't just keep pretending." The crowd had all but faded away for him, but as Jake shouted those last words, he felt the air shift. A murmuration of whispers rippled from the onlookers. Some faces showed sympathy, others mirrored bewilderment. The emotional tide he had started was now spreading, touching more than just the man in front of him. He hesitated, the tension thick like fog. His father opened his mouth to respond, but at that moment, the stray leaned its head against Jake's leg, a simple yet powerful gesture. It was an entreaty for empathy, a reminder of what could be if they reached out for each other. Jake watched his father's expression change, the hard lines softening just a fraction. Hope sparked alive within him. Maybe this was the moment when walls could come crumbling down. Jake, his father began, but before he could continue, something caught Jake's eye at the far end of the crowd. A figure emerged from the shadows, a familiar silhouette that sent a chill up his spine. It wasn't just any figure, it was Allison, his childhood friend, and the hurt in her eyes was unmistakable. What was she doing here now? As their gazes locked, an unspoken question flashed between them. Would she understand? Would she even want to? Jake's heart raced again, newly complicated. There was still so much left to confront, and everything lay before him like an open wound, waiting for healing. Would facing his past help him embrace his future, or was it a separate battle he wasn't ready to fight? Allison stood there, framed against the fading light, her presence an unsettling reminder of his past. The cheers of the crowd faded into a dull roar as Jake tried to process the whirlwind of feelings swirling inside him. He felt the heat rise in his chest, igniting both embarrassment and a desperate longing to bridge the gap that had grown over the years. "Allison," he murmured, breaking the silence that had stretched uncomfortably between them. Just saying her name felt like pulling at an old thread, one that could unravel so much. Memories flooded back, laughter shared, dreams whispered, and the innocent adventures of their childhood. But those same memories curled into shadows, tainted with the bitterness of unspoken words and unresolved hurts. She took a step forward, her eyes searching his, and for a moment, the world around them faded. "Jake," she said softly, her voice steady but tinged with the tremor of past pain. "What happened to you? You're different." "I'm still me," he replied, the defensiveness creeping into his tone. But even as he spoke, he understood that wasn't entirely true. I'm just trying to find my voice. Allison looked past him, her gaze briefly landing on the stray dog. You're trying to find connection, she corrected gently. I can see that. Jake felt exposed, acutely aware of how raw his emotions were, like open wounds barely held together. Everything feels broken, Allison. Even the connection with my dad. He glanced at his father, who stood frozen, caught between two worlds, one of tradition and expectation, the other of a son desperately seeking acceptance. The stray nudged him again, grounding him in the moment. Jake breathed deeply, gathering courage. Today was supposed to be about facing my fears, but it's become so much more. I thought proving myself would help. But all I feel is a sense of longing and need to understand where I fit. Allison stepped closer, her empathy palpable. You didn't choose the hard path. You're doing the best you can. You're not alone, Jake. You never were. He looked into her eyes, searching for answers, relief, anything. But all he found was understanding. That simple connection brought warmth to the cold ache in his heart. Laughter erupted nearby, pulling them from their moment. The crowd had returned to their celebrations, but it only sounded like distant echoes to Jake. I never meant to push everyone away, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I know, she said, her expression softening. You were just scared. Just like the rest of us. She paused, and he could see the weight of her own fears reflected in her eyes. So what now? Jake felt the ground beneath him shift. This wasn't just about him anymore, this was about the people he cared about. I don't know, maybe I have to face it all. Not just with my dad, but with us. I need to, it's time. Before he could lose his nerve, he took a step towards her, vulnerability spilling from him like brittle glass shattering. Can we start over? Find our way back. Allison's breath hitched, and in that moment, Jake understood just how much was at stake. The stray dog moved between them, sensing the tension, its eyes full of trusting sincerity. Yeah, I think so, she finally answered, a small smile beginning to bloom on her face. But only if we promise to keep talking. Jake nodded, the fog of uncertainty lifting slightly as hope stirred in the depths of his chest. For the first time in what felt like years, Jake felt optimism whisper that maybe, just maybe, he was on the brink of rebuilding everything he had thought lost. But before he could savor this fragile moment, his father cleared his throat, stepping forward, and Jake's heart raced again. This was a crossroads, not just for him, but for everyone. Jake, his father began, voice steady but heavy, ready to unveil thoughts that had lingered too long. With a weight of anticipation pressing down on him, Jake prepared himself to hear the words that could either bind them closer or push him away once more. What would his father say next? And could this finally be the moment that changed everything? The moment hung in the air like a fragile glass sphere, shimmering with the potential to shatter or illuminate. Jake turned to his father, searching for the courage to confront whatever was about to unfold. He wished for clarity, but all he felt was the thudding of his heart against his ribs. Jake, his father said again, taking a deep breath, as if fortifying himself for a journey they both desperately needed to take. I've watched you struggle, and it breaks my heart. His dad's voice trembled slightly, revealing the cracks in his typically solid facade. Jake's instincts told him to brace for rejection, yet the look on his father's face spoke of something else, a mix of regret and hope. The stray dog pressed a warm nose against Jake's thigh, and he absent-mindedly reached down to pet it, seeking solace in its soft fur. We've both made mistakes, his father continued, words tumbling out like pebbles from a clenched fist. I thought discipline would guide you, that it would make you stronger. But I see now that my approach might have pushed you further away. Jake felt something shift inside him, a blend of anger and understanding. Could it be that the foundation of their estrangement was built on misunderstandings, assumptions, and inherited fears? I never wanted distance. Jake began, his voice steadier than he felt. I just wanted you to see me for who I am, not who you hoped I would be. The crowd's laughter echoed again, but this time it was woven with an intention that felt less like noise and more like a background score, urging them to find their harmony. Allison's eyes never left him, full of empathy and encouragement. He could feel her unwavering support, grounding him, reminding him of the connection they had just started to rekindle. "Look, I'm still figuring this out," Jake said to his father, "but I'm tired of pretending. Tired of pushing everyone I care about away. I want to understand you and I want you to understand me." His father looked at him, eyes glistening with unshed tears, a slight nod indicating the slow unraveling of years spent in silence. "I'm sorry, Jake. Truly. I can't change the past, but I want to change our future. It's time we both learn to listen." With those words, a crack formed in the thick wall that had loomed between them for so long. Jake felt the relief washing over him, even as the vulnerability of the moment forced him to confront emotions he had kept bottled up. Allison stepped forward slightly, her eyes flickering between father and son. "You both have so much to give each other," she encouraged softly. "Don't let fear become the voice that speaks for you anymore. Let love be the guide." Jake's heart swelled with possibility. He could feel a weight lifting, making room for something new, something hopeful. Perhaps this was the path toward healing, not just for him, but for the family he had yearned to reconnect with. "Let's talk," Jake said, the words feeling like a promise. "No more hiding. Just honesty. Together, then?" His father asked, and the hint of a smile began to break through the heaviness in his expression. Jake looked from his father to Allison, then down to the stray dog wagging its tail, as if urging them forward. "Together." Just then, a flurry of joyful barks erupted from the gathering crowd as the team of military dogs returned from their demonstration, their handlers proudly showcasing their talents. The vibrant energy swept through the atmosphere, and Jake felt a surge of excitement at the reminder of bonds made through trust and courage. Jake glanced at Allison, who was smiling brightly at the spectacle. "Maybe it's time we take a page from those dogs, huh? Let us build trust, let us work as a team." As laughter mixed freely with hopeful conversation, Jake's heart felt lighter. He turned to his father again, anticipation buzzing in the air as he waited for his response. This felt vital, something much more significant than just words. But just then, he spotted something in the crowd that sent a chill racing down his spine, the familiar face of someone he had never wanted to see again. Could this moment of reconciliation withstand the storm that was approaching? Jake's stomach dropped as his gaze locked onto the familiar figure weaving through the crowd. There was no mistaking it, it's Derek. The last time they crossed paths, things had ended in chaos, words hurled like stones, each one a reminder of grievances both large and small. A mix of emotions surged through him, anger flared alongside the lingering threads of fear. "Jake? You okay?" Allison's voice, soft and steady, pulled him back, but his heart raced, pounding louder than the joyful shouts surrounding them. Yeah, just." He couldn't seem to tear his eyes away from Derek, who was now making his way toward them, a confident smile plastered on his face as if he belonged. Jake's father must have sensed the shift too, because he leaned in slightly, concern etching lines onto his brow. "Who is that?" he asked, already bracing for a confrontation. "Just, someone from my past," Jake muttered, trying to maintain composure. But Derek was closer now, his eyes flickering over Jake's father and Allison, a keen observer dissecting the scene. The moment felt fragile again, like an ice sheet ready to crack beneath them. "Jake! Long time no see." Derek called out, his voice dripping with a false cheerfulness, as if they were long-lost friends. The crowd faded into a dull blur. "Derek." Jake replied, the name feeling like a bitter pill on his tongue. The weight of memories clashed against the fragile hope he had just begun to build with his dad. "What brings you here?" Derek flashed an easy grin, but Jake saw the challenge behind it, a dare to relive their unresolved past. "Just, being with family," he managed, glancing at his father, who appeared equally taken aback. Derek's eyes flicked from Jake to his father, taking stock, then returned, narrowing slightly. Family, you two seem a bit too chummy. Isn't that sweet? Didn't he expect to see you all lovey-dovey? Back off, Jake snapped, his voice sharper than he intended, but the anger boiled over. For so long, he had tried to avoid this sort of confrontation, but with the dawn of reconciliation fueling his resolve, he wouldn't retreat now, not this time. Careful now, Derek countered with a smirk. You're a bit outnumbered, aren't you? Plus, that little truce you think you have might just crumble if you're not careful. Jake felt his father's hand squeeze his shoulder, a gesture of support or perhaps a warning. That's enough, he said, stepping forward slightly, eyes fixed on Derek with an intensity that surprised even him. Allison moved close, effortlessly bridging the growing tension with her gentle presence. Listen, this is a moment for healing. It's not about the past anymore. The only thing we need is understanding. Understanding? Derek chuckled, rolling his eyes. That's rich. What's there to understand? You two live in a fairy tale world. What happens when the real stuff comes crashing in? Jake's heart raced again. Was Derek right? Would this moment of planned intimacy shatter at the first sign of trouble? The hope that had been building crumbled under the weight of doubt. But as he looked at Allison and then at his father, he caught a flicker of something in their faces, a determination that spoke louder than Derek's provocations. It lit a path to resilience. I won't let you ruin this, Jake declared, his voice firm. Not now. This is too important to me. Derek scoffed, but the confidence in Jake's eyes must have registered because he hesitated, the grin faltering. Seems like you've changed, Jake. But don't forget, the past has a way of creeping back in. As Derek turned to walk away, the world around them blurred back into focus. The laughter of kids, the barking dogs, the music, all of it surged back in. But the undercurrent of unease still thrummed, tugging at Jake. It's only a setback, his father whispered, and Jake sensed the truth in those words. Just as they began to breathe again, a round of deafening barks erupted nearby, drawing laughter and cheers from the crowd. Jake felt the warmth of hope push through the shadows. But deep down, he knew something bigger loomed over them. Would the past strike back when he least expected it, or could love and understanding break the cycle entirely? It was a breathless moment hanging in the balance, waiting for revelation. The sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow over the park as laughter danced through the air. The cheerful chaos resumed its hold on the day, but for Jake, the tension from the encounter with Derek lingered like a storm cloud, threatening to spoil the moment. He took a deep breath, trying to find his footing again, but doubts crept into the edges of his mind. Let us go see the dogs, Allison suggested, nodding toward a nearby demonstration where military dogs showcased their extraordinary skills. The thought of majestic animals leaping and playing pierced through his turmoil. Their energy was infectious. They might lift the mood. Nodding absently, Jake let Allison pull him along. As they drew nearer, he caught sight of the first of the dogs, a magnificent German shepherd. The handler called the dog by name, and excitement lit up the canine's eyes. It bounded forward, effortlessly clearing obstacles with a grace that seemed almost magical. Look at that! His father exclaimed, gesturing toward the display. Incredible! Jake felt the tension loosen its grip as smiles bubbled up around him. The cheerful energy radiating from the crowd drew him in, reminding him of all the beauty in life that still thrived even after hard battles. He watched the dogs work, each task a lesson in loyalty, strength, and teamwork. See? Allison said, glancing over at him with a spark in her eyes. Sometimes it just takes a little shift in focus. Her words resonated deep within him, lighting a flicker of hope. Could he really change the way he viewed his past? Could he redefine his relationship with Derek, or would it always haunt him, like a shadow refusing to leave? The demo reached a climax when one dog leapt through a flaming hoop to find its handler waiting on the other side. Cheers erupted around them, joy washing over the crowd. Jake found himself clapping, getting caught up in the excitement. It was a reminder that while fear could linger, resilience could shine brighter. As the presentation wrapped up, Jake turned to see his father a few steps back, a nostalgic softness in his gaze. "The bond between those dogs and their handlers, it's something special," he said, making sure Jake caught his eye. "Being there for one another in tough moments." "Yeah," Jake replied, feeling the momentum shift in his heart. "Like friendship." Before he could dwell on the warmth between them, a commotion broke out near the refreshment stand. People staggered back, stunned, eyes wide in disbelief. Jake's attention snapped toward the noise, a chill stirring in his gut. And there was Derek again, towering at the edge of the disturbance, yelling orders as if he were rallying troops. Jake felt his pulse quicken. Could he really escape the past? The optimistic mood he'd just begun to cultivate felt like it was crashing down. Allison could sense the tension return. "Jake, stay close," she said, her tone firm yet comforting. But it was Derek's voice that sliced through the crowd, sharp and demanding. "Get control of this. You could hurt someone." The mic slipped from the handler's grasp as he fumbled in confusion. A dog, agitated by the sudden chaos, yanked away from its trainer. It barked, barking echoing and bouncing over the frightened murmurs of the crowd. Fear took root once more, anxiety tightening Jake's chest. There was no way he could let this scene spiral out of control, not while he was trying to build something different, something hopeful with his dad and Allison. "Let us go," Jake seethed through clenched teeth, breaking into motion. It was time to confront this chapter of his life. Usually he'd recede into the shadows during moments like these, but this was different. The fear would not win. With Allison and his father right behind him, Jake made his way toward Derek, determination fueling each step. Would this be another chapter of chaos, or could he finally turn the tide? His resolve surged as he drew near, eyes locked on Derek. What would happen next? Would the truth come crashing down, or could he forge a new path despite the specter of the past? Jake marched forward, each step heavy with the weight of unresolved anger, yet propelled by a flicker of courage. The vibrant laughter of the park around him began to fade, replaced by the increasing chaos. As he got closer, he could see the fear etched on the faces of the crowd, the uncertainty rippling through them like a waveless sea before a storm. "Derek!" Jake called out, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The word was a challenge, a way to reclaim his voice. Derek turned, surprise flashing across his face before hardening into a steely glare. "What are you doing here, Jake?" he barked, the authority in his tone sending shivers through those nearby. "I'm here to help," Jake said, forcing confidence into his words. "You can't just scare everyone into submission." Behind him, Allison and his father exchanged wary glances. Jake felt their presence like a sturdy wall, reaffirming his stand. Derek's attention flicked momentarily to them, then snapped back, unimpressed. "Help? You think you can help with that?" Derek gestured toward the agitated dog, who was now barking frantically, the chaos wrapping itself around them like an unwanted blanket. "You can't even handle your own life." That brutal jab caught Jake off guard. A wave of old hurt washed over him. Past failures cracked open like old scars, but he pushed through, feeling the rush of hope from the earlier moments surge within him once more. The dogs were noble beasts, trained to protect and serve. They could overcome adversity, maybe he could too. "Maybe I can't handle everything," Jake admitted, voice steadying. "But I can stand up to you. You don't get to dictate how the rest of us feel." The crowd was watching now, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Several nearby parents pulled their children closer, shielding them, while others whispered amongst themselves, caught between curiosity and fear. Derek stepped forward, his frame towering and imposing. "This isn't a game, Jake. People could be hurt. You think you understand? I don't need to understand everything to know you're wrong." Jake shouted back, the energy of his defiance surprising even himself. "These dogs, they don't act out of fear. They work as a team. That's what we need right now, not fear, but unity." The dog barked more insistently, sensing the turmoil in the air and redirecting its energy toward Jake's confrontation. The handler, fumbling to regain control, struggled against the might of the creature, but Jake could see the handler's resolve faltering. It would take creativity to defuse the chaos. Let us focus the energy, he thought, his instincts kicking in. Show them how it's done. With a deep breath, Jake knelt, lowering himself to the dog's level. Hey buddy, he crooned, extending his hand cautiously. It's okay. We're all friends here. The dog paused, nostrils flaring, calmed by the gentleness in Jake's voice. See? He pointed at the dog, glancing at Derek. This one's not attacking, it needs to feel calm. If we can unite, we can help everyone here feel safe. For a heartbeat, an unexpected silence enveloped them, a shared realization hanging in the air. Jake straightened, eyes meeting Derek's. Let us work together instead. Show this crowd we can be strong without fear. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Derek's stern features, but it was a crack that Jake was willing to take a chance on. What do you say, Derek? Can we find a way to bring this together? The world itself seemed to pause, questioning if change was possible. The park, once loud with laughter and joy, held its breath, waiting for Derek's response. Would he take the leap with Jake, or would he aim to reinforce the walls of fear? Jake felt his heart race, not just from the confrontation but in anticipation of the choice that lingered on the edge of his future. Could this moment reshape everything, or would it dissolve into chaos again? Hope sparked in his chest as he awaited Derek's answer. Would this storm of confrontation finally lead to clear skies, or would it unleash a tempest of buried emotions? Derek's expression cracked, just for a moment, as uncertainty flickered in his eyes. The crowd, once a mass of fearful whispers, seemed to lean forward, collectively holding their breath. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, a drum echoing the raw potential of this standoff. Unity? Derek finally echoed, a hint of mockery in his tone. What do you know about unity? You're just a kid playing hero. I may be young, Jake shot back, but I've seen pain. I've dealt with it. We can't let fear control us. He took a small step forward, closing the gap. The leash trembled in the handler's hands as the dog, still agitated, glanced between Jake and Derek, confusion and curiosity mingling in its eyes. Silence fell once more. Could Jake truly influence someone like Derek, someone wrapped in authority and experience? Yet in this moment, Jake's faith in connection surged. His voice softened, transforming the confrontation into something more vulnerable. Look, I know deep down you don't want people to get hurt. You want to protect them. But this just creates a cycle of fear. Derek was silent, his jaw clenched tightly. Yet the tension was shifting, the atmosphere altering as something fundamental within him wavered. The handler glanced nervously between both men, the dog still barking, but Jake could see the agitation slowly ebbing. Let us show them a different way, Jake urged, pushing the boundaries of courage. We can teach them to trust, just like we can trust these amazing dogs. He nodded to the dog, its ears perked up now, listening intently to the unfolding scene. Finally, Derek exhaled a shaky breath, perhaps realizing for the first time that Jake was no longer the frightened boy he once knew. I don't know, man. What if it backfires? What if it won? Jake interrupted earnestly. We can't know for sure unless we try. This crowd needs to see us come together. They need to believe that they're safe. He was breathing heavily by now, words tumbling out, igniting a spark of hope. Might be worth a shot, the handler muttered, his voice laced with hesitation but desperate for anything to ease the tension. With a newfound determination, Jake stepped back just a bit, raising his hands slowly to show he meant no harm. Derek, let us take the lead. We can work together. He cast a glance at Allison and his father, who had remained stalwart through the waves of emotion. Their steady presence fortified his resolve. Derek frowned, contemplating the choice at hand. The massive dog remained alert, attuned to the energy changing in the air. It was a mirror to Jake's hopes. Change was possible if just the tiniest effort was made. "All right, Jake," Derek finally said, exhaling tightly, "let us do this. But if it goes south, you'll be the first one I hold responsible." "Deal," Jake promised, though a knot of fear still coiled inside him. Together, they turned toward the crowd, Jake's heart racing as he spoke. "Listen, everyone. We're going to calm the situation. We need your help to show that fear isn't the only answer." Gasps rippled through the people. He met Derek's gaze, both of them feeling the weight of a unified effort blooming before them. As parents shifted their children behind them, some still clutching tightly to their little ones, the first tentative nods began to appear from the crowd, a flicker of faith starting to emerge from the dark. Could this truly be the turning point? Jake whispered a silent prayer that everything would fall into place. As Derek and Jake took their positions, the energy in the park felt charged, the moment heavy with potential. Just then, the dog relaxed, lowering its stance, almost mirroring the hope blooming within Jake. Then, suddenly, an unexpected loud bark erupted again, shattering the moment. "Wait! What just happened?" Jake thought, heart slowing as dread crept back in. He hadn't expected this twist. What could possibly unfold next in this chaotic scene? The dog's bark echoed through the air, a sharp reminder that tensions could rise again at any second. Jake's heart plunged into uncertainty. He glanced at Derek, whose brow furrowed in concern. The tension was still swirling, but the crowd was watching with something new in their eyes, curiosity mixed with hope. Jake took a steadying breath. "Let's take a step back," Jake suggested, raising his voice slightly, hoping to reach everyone. "We're all feeling the heat right now, but we can choose how to respond." Allison squeezed Jake's arm, her presence grounding him further. It reminded him of their shared strength. Together they could navigate this storm. He turned to Derek once more. "Just like we train the dogs to trust, maybe we need to show the crowd that they can trust us too," Jake pressed, feeling the surge of confidence build. "Let's calm the energy, not whip it into a frenzy." Derek hesitated but ultimately nodded, recognizing the need for a united front. With tentative steps, he moved closer to Jake, allowing the tension between them to crack open just a bit. Together, they each extended a hand towards the dog, taking care to approach it with gentleness. "Look, everyone," Jake said, gesturing toward the dog. "We're going to show you how to connect, how to trust. This isn't just about us, it's about everyone here." The crowd shifted, attentive now. Jake felt the charge in the atmosphere change ever so slightly. "Come on, buddy," Derek whispered to the dog, his voice softer than before. The dog seemed to sense their intentions, calming itself slightly, ears flicking forward. "There's a bond here," Jake encouraged. "If we can learn to respect that, we can create a safe space for everyone. Let us all work together." He could see the hesitance in many faces, unsure they could trust this impromptu alliance. But as people looked around and shared glances, there was a flicker of solidarity forming. Start from the ground up, Jake thought, remembering all their training. We just need to take it one step at a time. With Derek beside him, they slowly knelt down, keeping their body language relaxed. Jake extended his arms again, palms up, drawing in the crowd's focus. "It's all right, we're all friends here," he said warmly, his gaze meeting Derek's. "We can teach each other to trust." "Now watch this," Derek said, a hint of excitement shining through. He took a deep breath and spoke soothingly to the dog. "Hey boy, let us show them what we can do together." The dog's tail wagged, and eyes brightened, responding to the calm around it, sort of like how Jake felt inside. He realized they were beginning to create an atmosphere of connection, even amid the chaos. The murmurs in the crowd grew softer, hesitant smiles appearing as a few brave souls dared to approach closer. Children peeked out from behind their parents, curiosity replacing fear. Jake could feel the momentum building. "Now, everyone. Derek called, lifting his voice just enough. Let us take a deep breath together. In and out. As the crowd mirrored his actions, Jake watched their anxiety fade, replaced by a budding sense of control. The energy in the park was shifting, transforming fear into tentative unity. The stray dog was no longer a threat but a symbol, a reminder that beneath the bristling surface lay potential for connection. Together now. Jake encouraged, finding strength in his words. Let us move forward. Let us create this bond together. With a synchronized inhale and exhale, something miraculous happened. The community breathed as one, their fears lightening, the bonds forming anew. And in that collective moment, Jake felt a surge of pride. He had stepped into his power, not just as a man learning to embrace his past but also as someone ready to heal the rifts within his own family. Suddenly, from the back of the crowd, Jake spotted his father, who was now cutting through the throngs with purpose. He stepped alongside Jake, a proud glimmer in his eyes. You showed courage today, son. I'm proud. Jake's heart swelled, tears of joy threatening to spill. Dad, this is about everyone, he stammered. Realizing everything had changed. We can work together. I see that now, his father acknowledged. I see you. As laughter and applause began to rise around them, the stray dog stood tall, ears perked up. Together with Derek and his father, Jake stood, not just as a participant but as a leader in this transformation. Each step they took forward reflected strength and resilience, a community no longer tethered to fear but poised to embrace healing. And above all, as they moved together in unity, Jake found his place not in shadows, not as a ghost of who he once was, but as a vibrant part of something bigger, a family, a community, a home. That day marked the beginning of new connections, and in that warmth, hope flourished. This is the moment for you. If you're feeling inspired, don't wait not even one more second. You need to subscribe now to the channel. Leave a like to feed the algorithm and help spread the message of courage and unity. And comment below about your feelings on this transformation. We want to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to share this incredible story with at least 5 friends who could use a little hope in their lives. Your support means everything.